Mordor, a land of shadow and fire, where the earth itself seemed to scream in agony beneath the weight of Sauron's malefic presence. It was a cursed land, steeped in darkness, where only the bravest dared to venture. But the Dark Blade clan, a group of elite Yacha hunters, had come here not to run, but to conquer. With their advanced technology and deadly skills, they had made short work of the orcs, trolls, and foul creatures that roamed this desolate land. At first, the hunt was a glorious one. The orcs, primitive and brutal, had no chance against the superior tactics and weapons of the Darkblade clan. The Yacha were invisible in the shadows, moving like phantoms across the ashen plains of Mordor. Their plasma weapons and wrist blades tore through orc ranks with ease, leaving nothing but dismembered bodies and burning carcasses in their wake. The predators used their cloaking devices to perfection, striking from the darkness, picking off their prey with surgical precision. The orcs, panicked and confused, were helpless against the onslaught. The Darkblade clan felt invincible. They had conquered worlds and hunted countless prey, but Mordor, with its dark and twisted beauty, was unlike anything they had ever encountered. As they moved deeper into the land, the thrill of the hunt grew stronger. But little did they know, their actions had drawn the attention of something far greater than any orc or beast they had faced. The first sign that things were about to change came when the skies over Mordor grew darker, thicker with smoke and ash. A massive black shape appeared in the distance, moving steadily toward the Darkblade clan. The air trembled with a palpable malevolence as the dark forces of Sauron began to stir. The Yacha, usually masters of stealth and power, began to feel an unsettling presence. Something was watching them. Something far more dangerous than any orc. The first to emerge from the shadows was the Witch King of Angmar, Sauron's most feared servant. His presence alone sent a shiver down the spine of even the most battle-hardened Yacha. The Witch King, cloaked in black, with eyes burning like coals, wielded a blade forged from the fires of Mordor itself, a weapon imbued with dark magic that could pierce even the toughest armor. The Yacha knew the threat was real now, but he was not alone. From the heart of Mordor, the ground itself seemed to shudder as a terrifying beast rose from the deep pits of Mount Doom. A Balrog, its fiery wings unfurled, casting a hellish glow upon the land. The creature's fiery whip cracked the air as it let out a roar that could shake the very foundations of the earth. The Yacha were skilled hunters, but even they knew when they were facing an enemy far beyond their capability. Sauron's elite forces were not mere servants, they were terror incarnate. The Witch King, the Balrog, and a host of other dark creatures stood ready to strike down the Darkblade clan. The battle that ensued was brutal and unrelenting. The Yacha, used to being the predators, found themselves fighting for their very lives. The Witch King's blade cut through the air with unnatural speed, deflecting plasma blasts and slicing through the cloaked Yacha with terrifying precision. The Balrog's fiery whip lashed out, sending one of the predators sprawling to the ground in agony as the flames consumed him. The Yacha fought with all their might, but the dark magic of Mordor was unlike anything they had encountered before. Their cloaking devices flickered, disrupted by the dark sorcery of the Witch King. Their plasma cannons, once a tool of unstoppable destruction, seemed almost useless against the armored forms of the dark forces. The predators, for the first time in their long history of hunts, were outmatched. One by one, the members of the Darkblade clan were taken down. The leader of the clan, a fearsome Yacha warrior, fell to the Balrog's fiery whip. Another was pierced by the Witch King's blade as he attempted to flee, his body collapsing into the ash beneath him. The survivors fought desperately, but the overwhelming power of Sauron's forces was too much. The once proud hunters of the Darkblade clan were being slaughtered. By the time the battle had reached its climax, only one Yacha remained. His body was battered and broken, his armor cracked, and his weapons failing. But he was still alive, still fighting, still determined to survive. He had seen his comrades fall, but he knew he could not give in, not yet. He was alone now, stranded in the heart of Mordor, a shadow amongst the shadows. He knew the land well enough to hide, beneath the crags and the caves and among the twisted ruins of a once thriving land. But even here, he was not safe. The eyes of Sauron's minions were everywhere, and the Dark Lord's influence had seeped into every corner of the land. The hunter moved with a quiet desperation, scavenging for resources where he could, evading the orc patrols and avoiding the deadly creatures that now seemed to haunt every corner of Mordor. The air was thick with ash, and the heat from the rivers of molten rock pressed in on him. But he kept moving. He could not stop, not yet. The Yacha knew that there was only one way out of this hellish place. A single escape pod that had survived the crash of their mothership. The ship had been destroyed by Sauron's orcs in the chaos of battle, but the escape pod was still functional. It was his only chance, and he would fight through Mordor's nightmares to reach it. The journey was long and perilous. He fought off vicious wargs and orcs, used his remaining weapons to hold off the creatures of the land, and relied on his survival instincts to guide him through the treacherous terrain. But the dark forces were closing in. Finally, after days of evasion, the hunter found the wreckage of the mothership. His escape pod was there, partially buried in the ash. He activated the pod's systems, the engines roaring to life as he prepared to leave this cursed land. But the danger was far from over. The Balrog's roar echoed in the distance, and the Witch King's presence was still heavy in the air. The Yacha knew that this escape was not without cost, but it was his only hope. With a final glance at the dark and desolate land of Mordor, the last of the Darkblade clan entered the escape pod. The doors sealed shut, and the pod shot into the sky, leaving the cursed land of Sauron far behind. He had survived. Against all odds, he had lived. But the memories of Mordor, the fierce battle against Sauron's elite, and the haunting creatures of the land would remain with him forever. As the escape pod drifted away from the hellish world, the Yacha reflected on his survival. He had faced the greatest of challenges and lived to tell the tale. But he knew that there were others out there, other hunters, other creatures, that might one day challenge the dark forces of Mordor. And when that time came, he would be ready. The survivor of the Darkblade clan was gone, but the stories of Mordor's dark secrets would live on, carried across the stars. The last of the Darkblade clan had left Mordor, but the shadow of the land would never truly leave him. The curse of Sauron would linger in his mind, a reminder of the greatest hunt he had ever faced. And now, he would return to the stars to find new hunts, but Mordor would forever remain in his soul.